Okay, welcome back to the Roxana Bangura channel here on YouTube, as well as the Bangura Chronicles on Patreon and Facebook. Today I have another privilege. This is the Beyond part. I'm sharing with you Miss Aliyah Santos, and she's a sister from the United States. She's a mom. She's also a content provider, content producer, amongst other things. She has a podcast called Four Kids and Me Overseas. So welcome, Aliyah.
Thank
Thank you
you.
so much for coming,
Thank
um,
you.
for spending your time with me. Please tell us, briefly about yourself. Where are you from in the United States?
Okay. So I'm actually from Wisconsin. Well, I'm from Wisconsin. I was born in Texas. I was adopted up to Wisconsin. And I claim Kenosha, Wisconsin as my hometown. So as you know, there's a lot of nonsense going on in Kenosha right now. So it's a crazy time in the world.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Let me ask you, what was life like growing up in Kenosha? I've never been to Wisconsin. No, I've never been to that state. What was
Mm.
life like growing up in Wisconsin?
So I experienced a lot of like racial tension, microaggressions. I was where I grew up was in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, which is a pretty Caucasian white town. I went to like private school, so I had a lot, and I was always the only child there. So it was pretty crazy growing up there. Just recently is when I've kind of started to do a lot of work on like my self identity and whatnot. So I would say it was really tough growing up there, not having a lot of racial mirrors or anything like that.
Let me ask you, your family that you grew up with, were they a white family?
Yes, it was.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, what was it like? Did you go to university, college in Wisconsin, or did you travel?
No, I did go to college in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin, and I got my social work degree. So that was a little bit better. Like, and once I got to college, it was a little bit better, but still, very, very whitewashed.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah,
still great. So there weren't many people of color at your university?
not many.
Okay. What led you to study, you said sociology?
Social work, yeah.
Okay. What led you to study social work? What?
Because growing up, I always felt like I was the underdog and like there was nobody to speak for me. So I went into social work because I wanted to help other people and to stand up for what I thought was right. Try to be a voice for the voiceless is why I went into it originally.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what did you learn about yourself? I guess practicing social work. Did you work for an agency? What did you do?
Yeah, so when I first graduated, I worked at a Salvation Army. And what I learned was that I'm not cut out for the corporate world or whatever you want to call the social work world. Going to school and working in social work are two completely separate things because um, you're taught about like ethics and social justice and all this kind of stuff in school. But when you get into the real world, the agencies, you are not allowed to, you have to apply by the rules of the agency. So if the agency does something that you don't agree with or something that's not really standing for social justice, like you have to follow that, or you lose your job. So I kind of figured out like social work as far as with an agency or working with, even nonprofit organizations, there can be problems with that.
Okay.
Yeah.
How long did you practice social work? Being a social worker, because you had these morally it was conflicting. How long did you do that sort
Yeah.
of work?
I worked for about 3 years, 2 years in one place, another year and a half in another place, and then a year in another place. So it wasn't that long, but it's not for me.
So let me ask you, what did you notice in terms of the racial demographics were you dealing mainly with, with families and children? What patterns did you see in dealing with social work?
Well, I really noticed that there was a lot of like hoops to jump through, not necessarily only for people of color, but for like as far as classism, like jumping through hoops. But then when I worked in a homeless shelter for a while, And I noticed that like every time somebody maybe with mental health issues couldn't follow up to the rules, like the hoops that they had set for everybody, they were labeled as belligerent or aggressive, or and it was mostly African American Blacks that were being labeled that way. And I spoke out about that, and it turned into like a huge issue within the agency. So it just wasn't like, I just don't want to be a part of that. Like I want to stand on the side of right, and that's not for me.
That wasn't for you. How did you transition out of that field? What did you do next?
So I started my own daycare center in my home, and I ended up working with autistic children. And I had my daughter. She was like 2.5, 3 at the time. So I just, we had a lot of fun. We did crafts and everything, and I was at home with her, and I had other kids that I watched, and that was how I managed to stay afloat for those periods of time when I wasn't actually working at an agency.
Okay, well, I would imagine having that background in social work, I would feel very comfortable with having someone like that, take care of my kid. And, there's no price that you can pay someone who takes care of children, educators, child care providers. They're our most precious thing.
Right.
And how long did you have your own business as being a child care provider? And what patterns did you notice, while you were, you have this independent business?
Mm-hmm. It was about 2 years, and I really didn't notice any certain patterns. I had different kids throughout the 2-year period. Like some of them didn't last long, some of them did. So it wasn't really. It was just kind of chill. Like I was just at home, and like I treated them like my own kids. Like we did stuff, and I took them places, and that's about it.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
so you were able to, I guess, basically, be a main care provider for your own children, and then
Right.
support other families, which is a beautiful thing.
Yes.
I want to know what led you to where you are today. What was the catalyst to make you decide to travel?
Mm-hmm.
with your children.
Okay, so like I had mentioned, I was adopted. So in that environment, I was adopted into a white family with a white single mother, and she was actually, unfortunately, extremely toxic, as far as like emotionally abusive. And in the past, there have been other abuses that happened. So I didn't know about. Like I didn't have the words or the ability to describe what had happened to me as a child until I was about 30. So I was in a relationship that like really went south. Like it was really a crazy relationship. And I realized that was abuse. Like for the first time ever in my life, I had realized what was abuse. And I then noticed that what had been going on in my family situation was abuse also. So then I kind of cut ties with her. Like I went through this whole process, and I ended up cutting ties with her. And when I did that, and I didn't have that voice in my ear telling me like you're wrong, you can't do what you want, you have to go according to what society tells you. I decided to follow my dreams that I've had since I was 15. That I want to see the world, and I want to take my kids along with me to see the world. So that was kind of how it started. And then I started joining groups and figuring out that other people were actually doing this. And once I found out about Workaway.info, which is a site that
what is it called? Workaway?
Workaway.info, yes.
Okay, what is that exactly?
Am I really like bad feedback right now? I feel like I can hear myself talking.
No, I can hear you.
Okay. All right. So workaway.info is a site where you can join, and then you can look for hosts around the world. And they will provide you with accommodation in exchange for you working for them for 5 hours a day, maximum, 5 days a week maximum. So we did a few workaways in the United States at first, and all we did was I worked at a shop, like categorizing the different products in the shop. And then we worked on a farm just feeding the animals, and we had a good time. We learned new things, and we were able to stay, and we formed a connection with the families. And then we went over in Europe and did the same thing. And it was really good for me because you get to join with another family and feel like you're part of the community instead of just kind of traveling around. You're learning about the culture from the eyes of the family that you're working with.
I think that takes a lot of courage. I remember reading about Workaway, and I think it was very attractive to me. Like you, I'm a single mom, but I only have one child, so that's just less people to manage. But you have 4 children.
Right.
When you decided to do the Workaway, because that's so admirable, that takes such courage and bravery. What was the reaction of your children? What was the reaction of your community? Your family? Did you receive backlash, pushback, or support?
No, so I don't. So like I said, I only have the white single mother, and I don't speak with her. I do speak with her a little bit, but very, very minimum. I don't tell her what I'm doing at all because I don't want to have that negativity in my ear. Like, you can't do this, or this is bad, So when I first just, told my friends, like, hey, I'm going to start traveling with my kids and we're going to be doing this, it was, oh, did you win the lottery? Like, how can you afford to do that? And the way that I afforded to do it in the beginning was that I did Workaways. So I didn't have to pay for a hotel or an Airbnb or someplace to stay. I went and stayed with these families, and then we just used our free time to explore, where we were. So can you tell me what the second part of your question was? Sorry.
I think that's brilliant.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. The second part is, what about this could be a hair, like, are you crazy? You got to travel with these kids? What was the feedback from your children?
Oh, yeah.
And what was the feedback from your family, your community?
Okay, so my kids were really my kids are really good. They're like really easygoing. We were doing homeschooling before we went on this trip. So we kind of just like eased into, like homeschooling on the road, like unschooling, world schooling. We talked about it, constantly, like, okay, we're going to leave. Like, here we are in March, like we have all these days until we leave for this Workaway. We talked about like what they can learn. And the first one that we did was like a farm, and we're city people. So they were excited to think about like, oh, we're going to see animals, like we're going to kind of have space to run around, like, so I didn't experience any backlash when I decided to start doing this at all. I got a lot of encouragement from my friends and a little bit of surprise, like, how can you do this? Like, what are you thinking? But a lot of like support, like, go and live your dreams. Like, you deserve that, because my friends, they know like my hardships of the past and like where I come from. And I think they were thrilled for me that I was going to be able to do this.
Let me ask you, this process of Workaway and really, having this dream, this desire, since you were 14, I relate to that very much, because 14 is when 14. Well, we were 15. I was 14 when I decided that I was going to travel and just see the world. That's been with me, 30 something years, and there's a bit of therapy in that. How has this, the traveling, your lifestyle, kind of, living your life how you want, by your own rules, how has that helped you? Has it helped you in terms of healing from past traumas? Do you feel like you're in a better place now, with your lifestyle now, with you and your children? How have you benefited from this lifestyle choice that you've made?
Well, I definitely feel like I'm 100% less stressed. Okay, so I don't have to wake up in the morning and go to work and like figure out bills and all this kind of stuff. Like, there's some of that, like figuring out financials for travel and whatnot. But especially right now, because we're stuck in Morocco, like, I'm not worried about finances right now. But definitely less stress, and it's made me become more of who I think I was meant to be. Like, I wasn't meant to be sitting in the United States, like worrying about, school and how to, I was meant to like be a free spirit. I was meant to be, finding people that I like to, talk to and learning about different cultures. I think like some people think, like, I don't know, they think that this is like some crazy type of thing to do, like, going into strange cultures. I don't feel like it was. Like, when we went to Europe, it really wasn't that different. And like Morocco, I had a little bit of trouble at the beginning because, Morocco is really different than any place that I've ever been. I've been to Mexico, but I was with family at that time, so it wasn't as difficult. But like coming into Morocco, and I don't know if you listened to my last podcast, but I talked about like when we first got here, I spent a good hour just sitting in the port where we arrived and just trying to like think about like, okay, am I going to be okay here? Like, what's going on? Like kind of getting up the courage, right? But once I, at least, I know not everybody's the same. Like once I find a little bit of my path, like the start of the path, then I'm like good to go. So I feel like I'm highly adaptable, and I think that has, helped. Like in my travels, that's been brought out. Like I'm adaptable. So like, all that past trauma, like I'm okay. I'm gonna be okay no matter what. Like strength, empowerment.
I think you said something really, really powerful. You are adaptable,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And I think that is something that a lot of people who choose to travel, slow travel, unschool, world school, work away, whenever you're choosing to leave, all that you know in your environment,
Mm-hmm.
there has to be a bit of flexibility and adaptability.
Right.
And that's a great attitude to have. That's a great attitude to have. There's been times where something as simple as not having hot water for some time. Me and my daughter have had to deal with. One of my sisters here is asking about, she's debating whether or not to come to Mexico to move or to go to Africa. So we can't compare a country to a continent, but if you can talk about what led you to Morocco, and how you're dealing with, and you said you were stuck. So I would imagine because of the borders being closed because of the pandemic. What led you to Morocco, and explain the differences. Like I know because I listened to your podcast, and I have a little bit of familiarity with Morocco. But explain to us life now in Morocco. What led you to Morocco, and if you can compare and contrast it to your time that you spent in Mexico.
Okay, so basically what led us to Morocco is because we went to Europe first. And I kind of had like this plan laid out about I want to visit like this country and this country and this country, right? But you can only stay in Europe for 90 days and then you have to get out and then you can come back in 90 days. So originally the plan was to go to Morocco for 90 days, like wait out that time for the visa and then go back to Europe. So then we got to Morocco and we really liked it. So then we decided like, okay, we're going to go back to Europe for a few days and come back to Morocco and just chill, we actually, so where we are in Morocco, there's a town called Tagazout. And my dream, like I had a dream when I was pregnant with my son that I was going to end up living on the beach. We were going to have like chickens around and we're just going to be, having a great old time on the beach. So this town, Tagazout, there wasn't chickens around, but we lived in a house that was like 2 minutes from the beach. Like you walked out the door and walked down a pathway and there was the beach, right? Right next door to our house was a square, like where it was like the meeting place of the town. And you could just go out and everybody was there. We lit like restaurants and stores right downstairs from where we lived. So that was like magical for me. That was like my, my dream. So I think that was like what kept us in Morocco we loved that place. So that was why we came back originally. And then we eventually got stuck here because I was pregnant. And I had the baby here and, was doing all that kind of stuff. And then right when we were about to leave, we were going to go to Portugal to meet up with friends that we did a Workaway with. The COVID, hit and the border shut and we were stuck here. So, but Morocco has been really magical for us. Like I said, we stayed in this place that had like the chicken, like the shops all around us. Now we live in a little bit of a smaller town, but there's everything that you need is like right around. So I feel like in comparison to Mexico, Mexico was a long time ago and I kind of wasn't really paying attention as much as I am now. But I believe in Mexico, they have where you can go to the butcher shop and the chicken, like the fresh chicken is there, right? Yeah. So here you go if you want chicken, you go to the shop, they can, they kill and butcher the chicken like right there in front of you. and you get the fresh chicken that same day. Same kind of with the butcher, like you can go and they have all the beef cuts hanging out and whatnot. So that was like really different. That was hard for us to get used to it at first because we were like, oh, what is all this stuff like just hanging around? But it's, my kids kind of think it's funny now, it's because it's just like, I actually had a person tell me like, oh, that must be traumatic for them to see like the chickens being killed. And I said, I think it's good for us to know where our food comes from. It's good for them to know that we don't just go to the store and like it has a process that it takes us to get our food, right? So it's actually very educational for them to be here and see that. And I guess as far as other things in Mexico, I don't know. There's the beach, and the beach guys come around and they try to give you, your daily goods that they want you to buy. But yeah, I don't know. I feel like Morocco is a little bit like Mexico, but I don't remember clearly Mexico because it was like in 2012 and I was with my ex's parents. And so we didn't like do that much stuff,
Okay, so you see a little bit of comparison and contrast, and that sort of existence is here as well. I live in a mountain town, so I don't live near the beach, but chicken is very fresh. I don't see the chicken alive, but chicken is very fresh from so that existence. There's some parallels there. What about because it's an Islamic country, and how has that impacted or had an effect on the way you live your life? Friday is the day of worship. Did you have past Ramadan there? Were you there during Ramadan?
We've been here for 2 Ramadans. The first Ramadan was really like, oh my God, what are these people doing? Like everybody was really cranky at first. And I was like, okay, this is not good. Like, I don't know how you're surviving when it's like, 105 degrees and you're not allowed to drink water or eat. So that was pretty crazy. And I just kind of, I kind of just observed, like, I'm not a Muslim and I'm not trying to be Muslim. I'm not participating in Ramadan. I was pregnant at the time also, so it's not like I'm going to not eat. But I guess being here, like at first it was very different because we're not used to hearing like the call to prayer 5 times a day. And now it's just kind of like, you don't really even hear it because it's just commonplace. I haven't had any issues with this being an Islamic country or feeling, constrained by the religious expectations. I guess I'm not like, I don't know. I just wear my normal clothes. I don't like wear, I don't cover or anything like that. We try to be respectful when we go to the beach. Like I'm not wearing, like my swimsuit, like down the road or anything like that. But I don't feel like it's that different from any other place that you might go. Morocco is not very restrictive as far as Islam go, as far as other countries would be, where you need to cover or worry about it. I feel like Morocco is not as conservative as other countries.
Has this led you with, your time in Morocco? You've been there a while. Have you developed a curiosity for other countries on the continent of Africa? Or, what is your next destination? Once, things, I don't know, whenever normal is, what is your next destination?
Yeah.
What are you going to do next?
I definitely, when I first got here, I really, really wanted to go on an overland journey from Morocco to Senegal and to the Gambia. But I was a little bit worried about like safety because going overland, like there's bribes that you might have to pay and there's also visas and, my friend, I actually had a friend come from England that stayed with me for a while in Morocco. And he was a guy. So he had his 2 sons with him. And I told him like, this is what I want to do. And he ended up doing it. Like he ended up planning the whole thing and doing it. And I was so mad because I didn't have enough money actually at that time because we had, the visas. The visas were was going to get us. But yeah, he went and did it. But that would be, if I could do that, I would. Now I don't think I can because I have the baby and there's a lot of like shots that they want you to get in order to go, like for yellow fever and whatnot. So really my plan right now is just to get out of here as soon as possible. The problem right now is that the borders are only open for Moroccan residents to come in and for like tourists like me or to leave. and for other Moroccan residents that have business in other places to leave. But they're only allowing people to leave on the two Moroccan air carriers, Royal Air Morocco and Air Arabia, and they're only allowing you to go to your country of residence. So like me being a United States citizen, they want me to go to the United States. So people have been working around that, but I'm not quite sure if that's going to work for me because they're trying to check your baggage straight to JFK. And some people have pulled their baggage out and been able to go to other countries. I'm kind of worried about, that. So I'm kind of just chilling here until I figure out, like, are the borders going to open? What's going to happen next? And then I'll probably go to London and meet up with some friends there and see what I can do from there and like what countries are even open for the United States citizens to go to, because, we're blocked from a lot of places right now.
Mexico's open, and everyone and their grandmother is coming to Mexico.
Yeah.
And I know certain West African countries are opening. A sister's mentioning, like Ghana, and I think the Gambia. I would imagine Senegal. I know certain African countries are opening. I don't know about Europe. I just read yesterday that there's a second wave of infections in Spain. Right. So so I don't know what's going on in Europe. A pandemic lasts anywhere from at least 18 months to 2 years. So I don't think she just said Ghana opened their border today. So you're heading back to London. The obvious question is, how are you able to do this as a single mom with these children? What are you doing to finance your travels and to fund your lifestyle?
Okay, so I originally started out with my tax return. I had saved that, and I was working at the same time, so I was saving, the money from my paychecks as much as I could. And then when I left, I needed a little hustle, so I started doing some writing. So basically, right now I'm just freelance writing, and I do research. Like on Fiverr and Upwork, I can help with research. I kind of look for whatever fits me and whatever I'm able to do, and then I just write. And I'm trying to like slowly kind of transition that into, like writing for Amazon, Kindle, and I'm doing this podcast, which is hopefully going to translate into, helping me at least get some customers. But I'm, it's kind of a slow process. Like I'm kind of just minding my business, and I have, some money still saved for my tax return. The biggest thing that helped me was staying with families. Like if I don't have to pay for accommodation. So right now where we're staying in Morocco, we pay $200 a month for rent, and that includes everything. And then food, food is cheap here too. So we're not having to worry about that too much, but I'm trying to keep my expenses low. So when you're talking about like going back, going to Ghana and all that, I've had connected with somebody that runs a daycare center in Tanzania, and she does a Workaway with that daycare center. And I would love to go and help her out with that. But the flight tickets to Tanzania, and even to other countries here in Africa, they're very expensive. So I try to like keep, go where it's cheap.
You are a resourceful, smart sister. We're speaking the same kind of language. I'm a big believer in living below your means. My rent it's like $240, depending on the $240 USD, and that includes everything. It did include electricity, but that's since been taken out. But the electric bill is maybe $10 every 2 months. Yeah. So I live very much below my means because I need to have the savings, and I have to dedicate my money to other things like my retirement, my daughter's education, as well as travel. So these are the things that are important to me. So I can see that. And you're making me rethink this Workaway. You're really making me rethink this Workaway. I have also recently signed up for house sitting. And again, this is something I wanted to do maybe 4 or 5 years ago. I researched it as I was looking into this lifestyle. Is that something that you've done before or are open to doing? House sitting is when you go and stay in someone's home and you're basically taking care of their home in their absence. Is that something that you're open to doing?
Definitely. So when we did our first Workaway, we got to these people's house, right? And about week after we arrived, she's like, "Oh well, we're going off to this festival over here, and you guys are going to be watching the house, and you need to feed the chickens and whatnot." I was like, "Oh well, you just met us, but I guess if you want to trust me with your house, I'm good with that." So I kind of did, like that. It was a week. It was like a week and a half that they were gone. And then I've looked at the house sitting sites and whatnot. It kind of just didn't fit my thinking at that time because I was wanting to go to specific places, and these house sittings are kind of like all, like they're different places. So I'm not sure if that will fit. Going. I know there's a lot of them in like the UK, but I'm not sure if like hopping around like that is going to be financially feasible. Especially in the UK, because I know it's difficult to get from one place to the other. And you have to sometimes think about like too, is that like house sitting, like is somebody going to call the police? Like, I don't know, right.
That's definitely a factor, because I was just on the site yesterday and there was a lot of UK. I mean, they're all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
And right now, I'm in Mexico, so I want to start out small. I'd rather just start out where we are, and there's a ton of places that we want to visit
Mm-hmm.
here in Mexico. I have maybe an opportunity on the West Coast. I'm on the East Coast. I'm on the Gulf Coast. I have an opportunity maybe on the West Coast. So I'm exploring that as well. I think that'll be like our first foray, because we've been very stable living here, but we want to travel, and if I can do it with free accommodation, I'm there.
Yeah.
I'm totally open to that. And you've got me thinking about this Workaway, because now, like you, we're fully remote. Talk about because my daughter is going to school online. Talk about your children and how they've adjusted to this lifestyle. Your world schooling, homeschooling, unschooling. How is that for you?
So before we left for this traveling, we were doing homeschooling, and we had like I had went out and bought books, and then we did Khan Academy for math, and we did this for spelling, and we did this kind of site for whatever else. When we got to Europe, it was much more difficult to keep up with that, keep up with a normal schedule when you're trying to do working online and working for this Workaway, and then trying to do the kids. So we more unschool now. And we do some math. We do the Khan Academy online. We do reading, they have to read a certain amount. And then we just kind of learn from the environment around us. So we talk to other people here that speak French. Like my daughter, my littlest daughter especially, she's picked up on French that she would have never learned anywhere else. She's picked up on some Arabic. My oldest daughter has always been she does her own thing. So she's doing art. She's working on her art. She is learning Korean. She's been doing that for a while. She's also learning Arabic right now. My son is very into tech and very into figuring out how things go together. So he focuses, on he watches YouTube videos about how to put things together, and then he goes and does that. He's made a blow gun. He was really excited about that, So just things like that. I'm actually someone who I've been through the whole education system. Even the college, the college system, and I went and got this degree for all this money. And I kind of don't, then I saw that if I would have gone to 2-year college and maybe done something else, I could have been making more money, I kind of feel like that whole educational system is a scam. So I'm not against education, but I'm not for the current system, how it works. And I'm very irritated and frustrated that I went through my whole educational life, learning this whitewashed history of the United States, and everything is according to, how the Europeans would have done it. So I've actually joined a lot of groups melanated homeschooling groups and unschooling groups, and kind of, decolonization of education. And so that's kind of more where we're focused right now. We watch documentaries on, Native history or Black history, racism, that kind of thing. So we're much more focused now on not on so much what society, I guess, says is education, but more of like what we need to do, like where we come from as people, that kind of thing.
You are speaking all my languages, all my languages. Right now, my daughter, I mean, I've always taught her, from a non-Eurocentric point of view. That's my philosophy. And unfortunately enough, her Mexican teacher that she had in the school that she was at last year, he also taught from that perspective. And now we have a sister from the United States, and she's a licensed teacher from the United States, and she's Mexican, by the way. She has a company, a business called Boundless Classroom, and again, it's taught from this deconstructed, decolonized point of view. And my daughter's learning with her and her children and other students. So where our children are getting a more realistic version of education than what you and I may have gotten when we were in school.
Right.
I really didn't start to learn and explore things. Really, was on my own. I would say more or less in high school, and then my consciousness came in high school, and then it grew. I'm just excited. I'm just excited for these opportunities. I mean, you have a child that's multilingual. You have children that are multilingual. Your son is a technical person, and you're raising them with being fearless. Being fearless. Where do you see yourself this time next year? I mean, it's kind of really messed up because we have COVID. COVID is such an issue to deal with. But where do you see yourself, in the next year with your businesses, your podcasts, your writing, your authoring? What would you like to be doing, let's say, a year or two from now, with this lifestyle that you've chosen for yourself?
So I'm kind of like conflicted right now. Like I'm trying to figure out once we leave here what we can do. I'd really like to come join you all in Mexico because I know there's a lot of people over there and having a good time. But at the same time, I don't know because when we started out to do this, like we were going to travel the world. So we were trying to go to like multiple different countries. And now, so we're going to start in Europe and then go, to Asia and kind of hop around on this side of the world before we head to Latin America. So I don't know if I want to like go back now because then I don't know if I'm going to be able to come over here again, But ideally, I would like to sit out someplace right now until all this COVID nonsense has passed. So someplace with a nice beach, that would be great. Mexico, maybe I know the Dominican Republic, there's a few people there. And we could definitely work on our Spanish. I speak Spanish and my oldest daughter speaks fluently. And my son, he's kind of learning. He's been doing Duolingo, so he's kind of learning it. My littlest daughter, she's also learning. But yeah, I don't know where we'll be in a year at least, maybe 2 years. We'll definitely be probably in Latin America, I would say. I have no plans to go back to the United States at all, so that would be the plan.
What I advise people, my daughter holds a second passport. Her father's from Ghana, and we have Mexican residency. I just think it's important to try to collect residencies as much as possible. So as you hop around, you could think about getting work visas or some type of so just that you can revisit those places or maneuver or have employment or just be legitimate. I just think that's an important thing with this space that we have. Or this opportunity that we have to travel. I mean, in a perfect world, my daughter has Ghanaian and United States citizenship and residency here in Mexico. I would love for her to have residency in Europe, for example, and it wouldn't be too bad if she can have, residency in some Asian country, just for her to have options, just for her to have options. And I think that's something to think about as you travel, as you travel around.
I was actually just looking at this the other day, and Panama is the easiest place to get residency for a United States citizen, or not even residency, a visa or like a passport from Panama. And as far as Europe goes, Portugal is the easiest place to go. So I was actually just thinking about that because like it's good to have a base that's not the United States that you can like come to and be be okay. You don't need to worry about every 3 months like hopping in and out of the country. So yeah, I was actually just thinking about that. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And then I guess as far like the second half of your question that you had asked me about, where do I see myself as far as business? I'm just going to continue to build up my writing career. I'm trying the podcast. Like I really struggle sometimes with the podcast because I don't know if anybody's listening. Like I do, I know that people are listening, but I kind of feel like, oh, is this worth it? Because I put a lot of myself into the podcast. But my ultimate goal in all of this, is not for myself. Like I really would like to just help us, another single mother come up and be able to do this kind of lifestyle with her children. I really feel strongly about that because, there is a lot of single mothers that are traveling, and I know that some of them come for means. Some of them have pensions or whatever funding that they have coming in, or they have degrees, and they have remote jobs that they're able to do with those degrees. I feel like I know that I do have a social work degree, but I'm not doing social work, right? So I feel like there's a lot of women out there, a lot of single mothers out there that they don't have degrees, or they don't have means. And I would love to just show them that it's possible for you to travel, and to leave the United States, in some cases to leave that racism behind you, and be able to do this. So that's kind of like my ultimate goal. Like somehow, I don't know how I'm going to do it because, I need for myself and my 4 kids, but somehow I'm going to raise some funds, and I'm going to help at least one single mom come on a journey outside of the United States and, see that it's not, that she can do it, That's right.
Amen. Amen. That's that social worker, service heart that you have. That's what's coming up. And there's so many stories to tell. There's so many stories to tell, and I think that's a beautiful thing. I like I discussed with you. I want to use this as a space to encourage anyone. You can do things. I did it. I'm a single mom. I'm not from means. I did take my savings. I have a degree, and I put those things together to move, because what I wanted was more important than my fear. There's a quote: right. What we want is on the other side of fear. So that desire was stronger than my fear. And I think it's great to encourage everyone, particularly those of us who don't have the means. You have a talent, you have a desire. If you're in the work, it's not easy. It's not easy. I'm not saying every day is happy sunshine, but if you have the desire and you can do it. If you have the gumption, you can do it. And I think that's a beautiful thing to want to encourage others. We're doing it now. You and I talking on this platform, we're encouraging someone. I always mention there's a woman who reached out to me. She's a single mom. She has 3 children. She's in the medical field. I want to say she's a specialized nurse, and she reached out to me, and I said, "Look, it's daunting, but it can be done." So, what would you, in closing, what would you say to her or to other women who have this desire to leave the United States, or who just want to travel for long term, particularly if they're single mothers? What would you tell them, to encourage them, to support them in making this a reality?
I guess one of the things that really encouraged me when I first started out was someone had said, if you're going to struggle in the United States, you might as well struggle anywhere, right? I'd rather struggle on the beach than in, the cold and whatnot of where I was living. So another thing to realize is that this is not especially what I'm doing right now. I'm just living here, and there's a beach next to me, and I'm happy where I am, and I'm experiencing life in a different culture, but I'm not Instagramming, there's not crazy, whatever, how people think that Instagram life is real life. Well, it's not, we're just living, for me, I'm just living my life normally. I'm just happen to be in another culture and enjoying myself and learning about the world. So I guess what I would say to other women that are hoping to do this, just go for it. There's the only thing holding you back, is probably fear, right? Because you're not sure you'll make it. But you will make it. You will, if you fly. What if you fly? People think they're going to fall, but what if you fly? So just keep trying, just put your plan together, keep looking for those resources until you feel comfortable. And then just go for it,
That's the thing, put your resources together and just go for it. I would never discourage anyone from doing this. And I think what people have to realize is there's failure in not trying. It's okay if you travel and it doesn't work out for whatever reason, you need to come back, but you've tried,
Right.
you've done it, and that there's success in just making the attempt. There's success in making the attempt. Like you, I don't have any desire to live permanently back in the United States. Obviously, my child's father is there, and her sibling, his children, her siblings are there. My family is there, so we have to go back and visit. But there's no desire to call United States a permanent residency, to live there.
Yeah.
So I'm like you, and I admire you. I mean, for children, you got a baby. And you're traveling, I got a big grandma who's 12, so it's just her and I. But much respect to you, and I wish you every good thing, you and your children.
Thank you. I respect you too. You know, living the dream. Like, it might not seem like a dream sometimes. It's just normal life for me, but it's, this is what I've always wanted. So,
it's funny. People are like, oh, you're doing this big thing, and we don't necessarily feel as though we're doing a big thing.
Right.
But people, we have to kind of step outside of ourselves.
Yeah.
And I marvel. I'm looking at the largest volcanic mountain right now in Mexico. It's called Pico de Orizaba, and that's in my backyard, and it's beautiful. And I'm surrounded by such beauty every day. And 3+ years here, I still love these mountains. I still love my life here. I get bored, particularly with this pandemic, but I thank God for life. I thank God for health. The pandemic is trying, but I'm alive. Our children are alive and we're safe. We're not fearful for our lives.
No.
We're not scared of the police.
Right.
So these things matter. Black lives matter.
I think that's the biggest thing in Morocco. It was really strange for me when I first got here because, so for example, if you go to the store, like there's a lady that she looks at you and but she wants to help you because she makes money if she sells you a product, right? So when I first went to the store here and this lady was following me around, I was like, stop following me. I'm not going to steal anything. Like that kind of mindset was still there. And my friend was like, no. She makes a commission if they see that she sold you something. So I was like, oh, okay. And then there was one time that you're not supposed to smoke in the cabs here, but the cab drivers will still smoke anyway. And I was like, oh, put that cigarette out. You're going to get us stopped by the police. And my friend was like, no. Like, they don't really care, like that kind of thing. Like, I had to get out of that, like watching my back, making sure that the police are not like, behind me when I first got here. And it's, it's really freeing just to be here and not have to worry about that. Like, the police are my friends here.
That's the thing. It's very freeing, and we're not saying that there's a utopia, there's no racism, there's no colorism. We're not saying that because there's classism, there's all sorts of isms. And we might have passport free privilege. When we open our mouth, they'll know that we're American.
Right.
But what we're saying is there's no fear. I remember I was talking, and the police will go out of their way to say hello to me. If they see me 10 times a day, buenos días, ¿cómo estamos? I mean, every day. I'm just like, y'all ain't got nothing better to do. So I'm walking, and he was like, where are you from? And I was like, why are you so nosy, right? Can you imagine? And he was like, oh, he blushed, he turned all red, and can you imagine I said that to a police officer in the United States?
Right.
I dare not. And same thing here, Mexico, where we live, we have very good customer service. You're thinking you're going to steal. No, because that is just what I've been used to in the United States.
Right.
It's just customer service. Their job is to shadow you, to anticipate what you need. You're shopping at a clothing store, and you don't even really have to go get the clothes. They will go and get the clothes for you and bring it to you, which is kind of like a first class of concierge service. This just doesn't happen as frequently in the States. So, we have these bags of culture that we have with us because we're from the United States. We're Black women from the United States. And so, that's just been our reality. And it's not necessarily always the case abroad.
Right.
Well, I think this was fantastic. I wish you all the luck.
Thank you so much.
Europe, you know, and I'm going to look again into Workaway. I have, you know, with COVID, you know, like, you know, we've had to pivot a little bit with working and all these sort of things. So I'm going to look into this Workaway, and I'm probably going to talk about it.
Yeah.
Please tell us all your publications. You know, let us know where people can find you.
Oh, okay. So I'm on Instagram, broken, and then the number 2, brave. I'm on Patreon, and it's real broken 2, the number brave. I'm on Facebook. You could just find me under Aliyah Santos. I really don't post a lot on social media. I'm like kind of anti-social media. I try hard. But if you want to talk to me, like my inbox is always open, Aliyah Santos. Otherwise, I'm also broken, the number 2, brave on Facebook. And then the podcast is 4, the number 4, kids and me overseas. You can find that on Spotify, or I also have a Facebook page for that.
Well, I thank you very much, Ms. Santos. I hope you'll make it to Mexico and we can link up. Thank you so much.
For sure. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate you.
Okay, hold on 1 second. Let me just do my little out speech. Okay, everyone, this was Roxana Bangura of the Roxana Bangura channel here on YouTube, and the Bangura Chronicles on Patreon and Facebook, and Buy Me a Cup of Coffee. And that was Miss Aliyah Santos of 4 Kids and Me Overseas, as well as Broken to Brave. Okay, thank you very much. All right. Goodbye, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. You're appreciated. You are appreciated. Thank you.